Welcome in, along with Zach Robinson. I'm Steve Palazzolo. Today discussing Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. And before we get into the action, I just want to give a very special promo code just for our YouTube viewers today. If you go to ProFootballFocus.com and you want 25% off any PFF product, use the promo code YouTube, and that'll get you the discount. 25% off any PFF product over at ProFootballFocus.com. Promo code is YouTube. Today we're discussing Deshaun Watson, and the basic premise here is he's actually playing better this year than he did last year when he had 103 passer rating, and everybody's saying he's taking the league by storm. And we came across as people that said, why don't you love Deshaun Watson? Why don't you believe in Deshaun Watson? Why is your grade, this was last year, grade lower than all of his stats? Let's go back to last year real quick and then compare the two seasons. What did we see last year that said, you know what, maybe his grade isn't as good, or he hasn't played as well as the stats may have showed?
Yeah, we certainly saw all the big plays down the field, and that's where his grade worked in his favor. And then we also saw that he got a ton of help from his receivers. They were not dropping passes. We saw in that Seattle game, he was throwing screens. Guys are taking it to the house. So he definitely had a lot of help, and I think we saw he had some interception luck as well. And that definitely, in our world, that hurts his grade. And the basic passer rating, you look at it, and it's like it never happened. So some of those things that we saw last year maybe didn't get captured properly, and I think this year he is playing better and his stats are down.
Yeah, and that was actually our prediction. We said, look, he was a rookie quarterback and he'll probably progress in year two, and he did a lot of nice things last year. We're not completely hating on his entire season.
Yeah.
Once he settled down after his first couple weeks, he was an average to above average starter in our numbers. But look at the difference last year to this year. In the PFF grade, it's up by a substantial margin, and his passer rating's down almost 10 points. Touchdown to interception ratio is not as clean. And then another set of numbers that I think really tells the story is just what happens with Watson with the big-time throws and the turnover-worthy throws. Last year, he was #1 in big-time throw percentage, which was great, but he was really high in turnover-worthy plays. You mentioned that interception luck. And then I kept coming back to the drop rate. He had just a very low drop rate, which the quarterback doesn't really control. And even if you just gave him a league average drop rate last year, his passer rating would have dropped about 10 points. And that's where we are right now. He's just a middle-of-the-pack drop rate type of guy. And that just shows, again, the difference where we're grading every single play, every single throw, ball location, timing, that analysis is actually more important than the statistical output.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you should judge quarterbacks on is what we see on the field. No matter the result of the play, we're trying to capture that, and I think we've seen that. But overall, I mean, you've seen him progress as a player. The turnover-worthy plays is a huge deal to me, and him just being able to, he's almost a little more reluctant to let stuff go. I think he needs to find a little bit of balance, but he has done a great job of taking care of the ball this season. He still has that aggressive mentality. Now he's just kind of got to find a little bit of a balance.
What else do you think has changed about his play? Because I know coming out, we looked at him and we said, look, he's not great at necessarily getting to his second reads. He's good at, I think pre-snap recognition. Did you like him?
I think that was
everything?
Probably one of the best things he had, yeah.
So pre-snap, he was good. It was more that post-snap. And our numbers last year had him as one of the most inaccurate passers when going to his second or third read from an accuracy standpoint and from a turnover-worthy play standpoint. That's all in our QB annual, all of those numbers. But what else have you seen from his play year one to year two that may have progressed?
Yeah, I think it's almost completely different from what we saw in college. He was the ultimate timing and rhythm passer. He got the ball out 4th fastest on average his senior year, I think 9th fastest his junior year, and that's what you saw. He was getting the ball out on time. You mentioned the pre-snap and then post-snap. If it wasn't working out, a lot of the times he's taking off and running, and now we have seen him almost take it to the extremes of a Russell Wilson-like, where he's turning down some of those pre-snap reads and maybe not letting stuff go that he's got there, and then he's just turning it into a big play, trying to find a big play down the field, and it's worked out for him. I think there is a balance that he needs to find. He's got the 3rd most yards outside the pocket. He's holding on the ball the most in the NFL. So he's completely changed his game from what we thought he was in college. He still has that big play ability, but some of that timing and rhythm stuff just has been way different.
We saw some plays last week just against the Colts where we said, look, if he threw this on rhythm, it's a pretty good gain. But like you said, he held it, breaks the pocket, and then made a big-time throw down the field. It's one of those things where I think as a coach you're saying no, 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 yes, yes, yes. One of those, right? Like where he actually turns it in to a big play. That makes it tough on defenses, though. He's a very difficult guy to defend because just like Russell Wilson, just like Aaron Rodgers, Do you want to keep him in the pocket? Do you want to let him pick you apart from the pocket, but do you also want to keep him from break and contain?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been, from an entertainment standpoint this season, I think he's been more entertaining to watch as opposed to last year. All the touchdowns and everything was great, but just from down to down, his ability to escape, play on the move, extend the play has been what he's kind of morphed himself into. But he's also, and then you add in the scramble runs, he's averaging over 9 yards per attempt on scramble runs where he's taken off. He has over 100 yards on the season. So you add all that stuff together, and he's playing well. Obviously, the pieces around him aren't great with the offensive line. He's under pressure, but he has taken a lot of steps.
That was one of the things I wanted to mention. The offensive line has not been great, one of the worst rated in all of the NFL. One other thing from an offense standpoint, just watching them last week for the first half, when they were just putting their game plan in, and you could see how they wanted to attack the Colts defense. It looked like Auburn's offense a little bit with all of the jet motion, orbit return motion. I mean, they had guys all over the place. What are your thoughts on what Houston's doing offensively to kind of mesh with Watson's skill set?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the stuff like in Auburn, like Clemson. You wonder how much time they spent with that Clemson staff this offseason just trying to see the different ways that they can do the misdirection play action game, because that's where they get their chunk plays. But you're right, man. It is a very college offense, and they do some cool stuff. They don't run a lot of different plays. They just dress it up a lot of different ways and keep guys off balance.
Window dressing, that was the phrase that came to mind as I was watching them. A lot of moving parts with the Texans offense. So there you have it. PFF, we're adding the proper context to Deshaun Watson's play. He's played better this year, but the stats have not backed it up yet. That does bode well for the Texans going forward. Don't forget, promo code YouTube if you guys want 25% off any PFF product over at ProFootballFocus.com.